Thank you so much, Jean-Claude. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Good? All right, so I'm just checking a couple of different things here. So I know we've got a lot of things to go through, and it was an amazing presentation by Gary, so I will not have as many jokes and be as entertaining, but I will try to at least keep you engaged with lots of cool things that we are working on and how we think about, employees and knowledge management really coming together in a new shift of work. So let me take just a minute or two to explain what's going on in the world that we're seeing. We've all been through a lot of rapid transition in the last couple of years, whether it's through the global pandemic, thinking about how our workforce is coming together, thinking about how expectations at work is really changing. And so I want to think about how knowledge really helps to power that shift, how it powers the culture of what we're looking at. And so you can see some great stats here. These are really recent stats. They just came out in September that helps us to understand the shift that's happening inside of the workplace. And so looking at this, understanding that growth is a big area where employees are saying, if only I had access to the learning, the knowledge, the development I need, I'd actually consider being at my employer longer. Right? And you will resonate, I think, with this too. So the other area for us is understanding that employee experience itself is really hard. How do we actually bring all of these things together? We know that knowledge by itself is not successful, right? We want to think about all of the different ways that we can be productive, and we've got to think about how we bring it into work every single day. And another challenge that comes with this is our business leadership. Many of our business leaders are like, well, if I can't see people in the office, they're not being productive, right? You get some of those in your organization? I know we do. So looking at that. And so thinking through, like, how is it, management by walking around has fundamentally changed, right, in this new world of how we empower a remote workforce, how we think about hybrid work and people working in lots of different ways, but we want to be able to bring all of those pieces together. So how do we think about putting this all together? So the approach that we have is to think about an employee experience platform. And this really is about putting you at the center. And I can't stress that enough. For so many years, our systems have been the things that have limited us. The technology has been the problem, right, of like the bottleneck. Well, we can't do this, so the humans have to adapt to the system. Well, the world has changed. The world has changed such that we can actually think about adaptation that is happening for you as a person instead of you adapting to the way that systems are. And it's a really interesting world for me because when you think about it, change becomes the big bottleneck, right? It's humans, it's our people systems that are the issues here and not actually the technology systems. We have a plethora of these tech systems that are out there. So when we think about employees and putting them at the center, we want to surround them with all of the things that they need to be successful. And so thinking through, like, how do we use that to power the next few shifts inside of knowledge sharing? So there's some big things that are happening in my mind. So we think about that knowledge sharing culture inside of an organization, and we'll see if the projector likes it or not. I feel very value judged by the projector already. It's all good. It's all good. But we'll understand that. We'll think through some of these shifts here. So a couple things that I wanted to work on first off. So understanding, we don't want folks to actually have to go visit a knowledge base, right? It's one of those areas where if I have to go to a destination, I am less likely to do it, right? And so I hope you've all seen this probably in the work that you've done already, of like, if I have to force people to actually go to a place to go look at things, whether that was a physical library in the old world, or whether it's in the new world where we have to go and say, hey, I have to go to a site or a specific area, it's really, really hard to get people to do that, right? Because it's like, oh, I have to remember it, I have to build it into the habit that I have for work, it's really, really tough. And so we want to think about how we're helping you to discover knowledge in the flow of the work that you have already. We also want to think about that contribution culture, because one of the areas that I've seen in that shift in the last 20 plus years in the knowledge management and knowledge sharing space has really been about, hey, we've got a bunch of folks that are trying to curate this knowledge on behalf of the organization. And it's like amazing work, right? It's like you can take and synthesize what it is that people have done in their different projects, and we make that distributable across an organization. And now we're getting to this place where, hey, we need to actually crowdsource that. Right? I think about the shift that we've seen on the internet where so many of us use things from like Wikipedia, right? And we put it into our presentations because we trust that actually authors are communicating with each other. Even though this is information that comes from random people on the internet, we're okay taking it, right? Because it's transparent and folks can actually source that information and think about how they've crowdsourced it, and it's been tested by that transparency. And so thinking through how we can help everybody to contribute as part of that too. Now, the same thing happens with this hand tooling methodology. Thinking through now, it is about that partnership with people and AI coming together. And so I always position AI with all of the amazing technologies that we have at Microsoft, but I always position it as a robot intern, right? It's an intern because it's learning about your company, right? It's thinking through, it's actually looking at a lot of the data that you have inside of your systems. It's trying to learn from all of that data and put it all together. But it is still an intern because 70% of the time it's going to be right. Sometimes it's utterly wrong, right? And so you've had that experience, right? With interns, you may have had some in your projects and say, hey, you know, there's an experience here that says this thing is getting to learn and understand it. But what we want to do is help people to scale through that robot intern, right? And think about how can I use my time more effectively. So it is that partnership of people and AI coming together that becomes most important. And then finally, that big shift that we've been seeing, I think, over probably the whole duration of the time that we've been running KM World, right, and thinking through all of the conferences that we've had together. I think about the change that's really happening here is that knowledge is power mindset. If I know something, I don't want to share it with other people because it makes me, you know, popular, it makes me powerful, right? But really thinking through, like, how do I help to have knowledge be empowering inside of an organization as well? So when the blue screen comes back, we'll talk about knowledge in the flow of work. So when we think about this, it's a couple different areas. One is being able to deliver things when you can actually find them directly in the experiences that you use every single day. And so I've got a quick example here of using a hashtag, which we use a lot in social media, but taking that pattern and actually using it for social inside of your company to power knowledge. So within email, can I actually use that to help contribute? Can I also use this directly inside of Teams as well for collaboration and chat? And so when somebody says, hashtag, you know, here's my project name, I easily make it findable for them to actually discover, here's the particular topic, here are the resources, here are the people, and I can actually explain why those folks have actually been selected to be put on this topic card in this case, and being able to bring that directly into the flow of work. Because that's when you consume knowledge, right? It's all about this just-in-time learning, thinking through, like, how do I help communicate what I've curated and be able to use that directly in the flow of work. Now, a couple other things on the people and AI front, because this is a thing, I have such a passion for this. I've been working in AI for 20 plus years, and in the end, it is all about the people, right? That's what it is. AI is that robot intern. It's that assistant that helps us scale. So we have a ton of investments. And what's really interesting to me, again, over the last 20 years that I've been working in this space, has been like, hey, really bringing this to life takes so many different toolkits. There is no one beautiful example. There is no silver bullet. And we all know this instinctively. But the breadth and depth of the signals that you get created so that you can use AI, the content that's coming inside of your organization, we want to think about all of those investments coming together so that it can at least take a first draft. Right? And that's really what I'm looking for out of that robot intern. Incredibly powerful technology, and then understanding a little bit more about how we can put that to work. So all of that tech, what is it going to do for me, right? I want to think about how I can evolve what knowledge looks like. I don't want just the same knowledge base article for every single person, because your level of experience with that particular topic is different. And so instead, I want to think about how we help you to evolve what you see. And so in this case, I'm showing you here a topic. That topic is actually personalized for you because we can say, hey, you actually have an active association with that topic. We're showing you an activity feed so you can quickly catch up on what's important to you. And then you can also see things like questions and answers as part of that too. So bringing all of those pieces together so you actually are delivering personalized knowledge, that personalized context and that take inside of the knowledge base articles that you have. Now let's talk a little bit about knowledge being empowering too. So with knowledge empowerment, for me, this is really about how do I help you to understand your contribution inside of the knowledge base? How do we think about valuing what it is that you're doing every day? How do we empower that culture of contribution and actually get rewarded for it too? And that first starts off with just understanding how you're connected to things. And so we first off are looking at all of the signals that we have inside of the graph. So that's based on all of the work that you do every day. So thinking through, for example, the meetings that you're in, the documents that you're collaborating on, who you're working with, the tasks that you're on, all of those pieces come into understanding how you're associated with a specific topic. And we can actually infer a lot of that association. And we can give you all the documents and all the things that we use to calculate that so you can actually understand your implication and how you're associated with with that topic. And then we want to be able to make it easy for you to connect with other people inside of the organization. One of the big things we've worked on at Microsoft has been this kind of future of work research, and there's some incredible stats that came out of it. One of the big areas that I've seen as part of that has been the pandemic has really led to the strengthening of what Microsoft research calls the strong ties inside of a company. And so those are the things like the project groups, the teams that you're on, and working with those things together. But what we have lost a lot of times is the weak ties. Those are the things we call that water cooler effect, right? Of just serendipitously, you get to meet people inside of the company. I kind of know them from something else, but they may be the source of innovation for me. And so we want to think about how we're powering that with Viva Topics inside of an organization. How do we help you to improve those weak ties to people so you have a basis for innovation as well? And so that first step is understanding how am I connected to a topic? How do I find the other people who are also connected to that topic? And then how do I help you to map all of those relationships coming together? So it's really powerful stuff to think about this too. Now, the other big piece for me is understanding the contribution that's coming from everywhere. And so I've got an example here. I didn't show you all of the knowledge base parts and everything else. So we've got great descriptions that are generated from AI. You can come in, you can do subject matter expert updates. We've got resources, we've got the people that we're automatically inferring. But when we think about contribution, it's not just about being a subject matter expert. Contribution is also about deepening the understanding of a particular area. Most adults learn through asking questions, right? And so we want to think about great new experiences that help you to deepen your understanding of a topic or see it from other people's perspectives. And so for us, it's not about keeping that knowledge base static. The topic page itself, bringing all of those resources together, is a great first start for aggregating. But how do we think about generating new knowledge? And so this is where we're putting together the conversations, the questions and answers, importantly, so we can put those and unlock that latent knowledge, put it as alongside where it needs to be in the knowledge base, connect the dots between all of these pieces, and then understand a little bit more about how we can power what you need next. How can we scale those questions and answers? How can we actually deliver them to you in the search experiences that you have every day? And how can we bring them to you if you're a subject matter expert so you can help to answer them too? So it's a really important piece of how we think about contribution. Questions are just as important as answers, and thinking through how we get together resources and people connecting together. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an understanding, a little bit about how we're thinking about the knowledge sharing culture and how we're powering that with Viva Topics. I'll just end on a couple of things here. There's a couple of links here that you can come visit. We were at the booth yesterday. Hopefully you got to meet a bunch of folks as well. It's been really exciting. But there's also a session this morning with Rachel Wrong, one of my colleagues, who's from the Microsoft research area in data insights and engines. And so if you're really interested in that deep technology, she can talk a little bit more about that too. And then I have put my email address up there because I know so many folks wanted to connect and I haven't gotten to meet everybody, but I've put my email address up there and I'd love to be able to talk with you all and hopefully see you around at the conference too. So with that, thank you so very much.